It was a cold, rainy afternoon in Seattle when 8-year-old Lucas sat alone on the wet concrete steps outside Mercy General Hospital. Raindrops fell steadily on his thin jacket as he hugged his knees close to his chest. In his small hands, he held a crumpled piece of paper tightly, protecting it from the rain. Tears mixed with raindrops on his cheeks, while his shoulders shook with quiet sobs. People hurried in and out of the hospital entrance. Doctors in white coats, nurses finishing their shifts, and worried family members rushed past him. Some glanced at the little boy but quickly looked away, thinking he was waiting for someone inside. No one stopped. No one asked why he was crying in the rain. Lucas kept his head down and continued to cry softly, his eyes red and tired. Nurse Emily Carter had just finished a long 12-hour shift. She felt exhausted as she walked toward the parking lot with her umbrella open. Her dark blue scrubs were still fresh, but her feet ached. As she passed the main entrance, she noticed the small boy sitting there all alone. Something about him made her slow down. Most children who sat outside had parents or grandparents with them. This boy looked completely by himself. Emily stopped for a moment under the hospital awning and watched him. Lucas did not look up. He only held the folded paper closer to his chest as if it was the most important thing in the world. The rain grew heavier, soaking his brown hair and making him shiver. Emily felt a pull in her heart. She knew she should just go home to her warm apartment. But she could not ignore the sight of this frightened child crying alone in the rain. She took a few steps closer, her shoes making soft sounds on the wet ground. The boy still did not look up. Emily glanced around once more, hoping to see someone coming for him. But the street was empty, except for passing cars and falling rain. Something was clearly wrong. And deep down she felt this ordinary rainy afternoon was about to become much more complicated. Emily stepped closer under the hospital awning and gently lowered her umbrella. Rain continued to fall heavily around them. She knelt down on one knee so she could see the boy's face better. Water dripped from his wet hair onto his jacket. He looked cold, tired, and deeply frightened. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly, keeping her voice warm and calm. "Are you okay? Why are you sitting out here in the rain all by yourself?" The 8-year-old boy named Lucas did not answer right away. He kept his head down and hugged the crumpled piece of paper, even tighter against his chest. His small body shivered from the cold. Emily noticed his lips were turning slightly blue. She took off her warm cardigan and carefully placed it around his shoulders. "My name is Emily. I'm a nurse here at the hospital," she continued gently. "Are you lost? Did you come with someone?" Lucas slowly shook his head. His eyes stayed fixed on the ground. After a long moment, he whispered in a shaky voice, "Mommy is inside, but the monsters are coming." Emily felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the rain. She looked at the boy more carefully. His eyes were red from crying, and his small hands trembled as he held the folded paper. She tried to keep her voice steady. "Monsters? What do you mean, Lucas?" she asked, hoping he would tell her his name. The boy looked up at her for the first time. His big brown eyes were filled with fear. "They hurt Mommy. They said they will come back to finish it. I don't want them to find her." Emily's heart started beating faster. She glanced toward the busy hospital entrance. People were still rushing in and out, completely unaware of the small boy and his frightening words. She gently touched Lucas's shoulder. "Come inside with me, okay? It's warm in there and you're soaking wet. We can talk more, and I'll help you find your mom." Lucas hesitated for a second, but then nodded slowly. He stood up on his shaky legs, still refusing to let go of the crumpled drawing. Emily held his small, cold hand and led him through the sliding glass doors into the bright, warm hospital lobby. As they walked, she could not shake the uneasy feeling growing inside her. Something was very wrong, and this frightened little boy might be the only one who knew the full truth. Emily led Lucas into the warm hospital lobby, her hand gently holding his. The bright lights and heated air felt like a different world compared to the cold rain outside. She quickly found a quiet corner with 2 chairs and sat down with the boy. Lucas was still shivering, so she wrapped her cardigan more tightly around him and brought him a clean towel from the nurse's station to dry his hair. "Stay right here with me," she said softly. "You're safe inside. Can you tell me your full name and your mom's name? Lucas Bennett, he whispered. My mommy is Sarah Bennett. She's upstairs. While Lucas dried his face, Emily took a quick look at his hospital wristband, information on the computer system using her staff login. Sarah Bennett was indeed a patient on the 3rd floor. She had been admitted 2 days ago after a fall down the stairs. The report said it was a possible car accident, but something did not feel right. Emily turned back to Lucas. His small hands were still clutching the crumpled paper like it was his only protection. She spoke gently. Lucas, can I please see your drawing? I promise I'll give it right back. The boy hesitated for a few seconds, his eyes full of fear. Then he slowly opened his hands and gave her the wet, wrinkled paper. Emily carefully unfolded it. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The crayon drawing showed a woman lying in a hospital bed. Around her were 3 dark figures with angry faces. One figure was holding a needle, another had his hand over the woman's mouth, and the third was holding a pillow. At the bottom, in shaky child writing, it said, "They want to hurt Mommy, please help." Emily stared at the drawing, her heart beating faster. The details were too specific to be from a child's imagination. The woman in the bed even had the same hair color and hospital gown as the patient records showed for Sarah Bennett. Lucas, she said quietly, trying to stay calm. Who are these monsters in your picture? The boy's voice trembled. Mommy's boyfriend, Mike, and his 2 friends. They pushed her down the stairs. I saw it. They said if she wakes up, they will come back and make sure she never talks again. Emily felt a cold wave of fear wash over her. She glanced toward the elevators, then back at the frightened 8-year-old boy sitting beside her. The hospital was suddenly starting to feel much more dangerous than it had just 10 minutes ago. Emily folded the drawing carefully and placed it in her pocket for safekeeping. Her mind was racing. She looked at Lucas, who sat quietly beside her with fear still fresh in his eyes. She kept her voice low and steady, so she wouldn't scare him more than he already was. Lucas, I believe you, she said gently. I'm going to help your mom, but I need you to stay close to me, okay? The boy nodded slowly, his small hands now empty and trembling. Emily quickly logged into the hospital system again and pulled up Sarah Bennett's full medical file. The official report said Sarah had fallen down the stairs at home and possibly been hit by a car. But as Emily read the details of the injuries, her stomach tightened. The bruises on Sarah's arms and neck did not match a simple fall. There were clear signs of older injuries. 2 marks that suggested this was not the first time. She turned back to Lucas. Did you see what happened to your mom? Lucas looked down at the floor. His voice was barely a whisper. Mike pushed her really hard. She was trying to leave him. I was hiding in my room, but I saw everything through the door. Mike told his friends, if she wakes up, we have to finish it before she talks. That's why I ran here with my drawing. I didn't know what else to do. Emily's heart pounded. She glanced toward the main reception desk. 2 men had just walked into the hospital lobby. One was tall, with a shaved head and tattoos on his neck. The other was shorter and muscular. They were speaking to the receptionist and looking around carefully. Emily's breath caught when she heard them ask for Sarah Bennett's room number. She quickly pulled Lucas behind a large pillar so they couldn't be seen. Are those the men from your drawing? She asked softly. Lucas peeked out and his face went pale. He nodded fast, fear filling his eyes again. That's Mike's friend and another man. Mike is probably coming too. Emily's hands shook slightly as she thought fast. She could not let these men reach Sarah's room. She gently guided Lucas toward the staff break room down the hallway. Stay in here and lock the door behind you. Don't open it for anyone except me. I'm going to make sure your mom stays safe. As she closed the door and heard the lock click, Emily felt the weight of the situation. The hospital, usually a place of healing, now felt full of hidden danger, and she was the only one who knew the truth. Emily's heart was racing as she walked quickly back toward the main hallway. She kept her face calm so no one would suspect anything was wrong. The 2 men were still at the reception desk. The taller one with the neck tattoos leaned forward, speaking in a low voice while the shorter man scanned the lobby with cold eyes. Emily's stomach tightened when she heard them say Sarah Bennett's name again. She moved behind the nurse's station and quietly spoke to her colleague, Rachel. Don't give them any information about room 312. Delay them as much as you can. Call security right now, but do it quietly." Rachel looked confused but nodded after seeing the serious look on Emily's face. Emily took a deep breath and walked toward the elevators. She needed to reach Sarah's room before the men did. As she waited for the elevator, she glanced back. The two men were now moving away from the desk and heading toward the stairs. Inside the locked staff break room, Lucas sat on the floor with his knees pulled to his chest. He was breathing fast, scared that the monsters had already found him. He remembered the terrible night when Mike pushed his mother down the stairs. The loud sound still echoed in his mind. His mom had been trying to pack their bags to leave for good. Emily reached the third floor and hurried to Sarah's room. The woman lay unconscious in the bed, connected to machines. Her face was bruised, and there were marks on her neck that clearly did not come from a car accident. Emily checked the chart again. The blood test results had just come back. Sarah had been given a heavy dose of sleeping medicine, the kind not usually found in simple falls. Suddenly, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a message from Rachel. "The men are on the second floor. They're coming up." Emily locked the door of Sarah's room and stood guard beside the bed. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the unconscious mother and thought about the brave little boy hiding downstairs. This was no longer just a worried child's story. These men were dangerous, and they were inside the hospital, coming closer with every passing minute. Emily stood beside Sarah's hospital bed, her eyes moving quickly between the monitors and the locked door. The machines beeped steadily in the quiet room. Sarah lay pale and still, her breathing shallow. Emily checked the latest lab results on the computer in the corner. What she saw made her blood run cold. The toxicology report showed high levels of a powerful sedative in Sarah's system, a drug that was not prescribed. The injuries on her body also told a different story. The bruises on her arms looked like fingerprints, and the damage to her neck suggested someone had tried to choke her. This was not a car accident or a simple fall down the stairs. This was attempted murder. Emily's hands shook as she pulled out the crayon drawing from her pocket and compared it again. The details matched perfectly. The needle, the hand over the mouth, the pillow. Lucas had drawn exactly what he had seen or heard. Just then her phone vibrated. It was Rachel from the lobby. "They're on the third floor now. Security is still delayed. Be careful." Emily's heart pounded. She moved a chair against the door for extra protection and dimmed the room light slightly. She looked at Sarah's peaceful face and whispered, "I won't let them hurt you. Your son is protecting you." Down in the break room, Lucas sat in complete silence, listening to every sound in the hallway. He was terrified but determined. He had run through the rain with only one goal, to save his mother from the monsters. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside Sarah's room. Emily held her breath. The footsteps stopped right in front of the door. A man's low voice said, "This is it. Room 312, make it quick and quiet." Emily pressed herself against the wall, her phone ready with the police number already dialed. She knew she had only seconds. The handle on the door moved slowly as someone tried to open it. When it didn't open, the man outside cursed and pushed harder. The chair blocking the door began to slide. Emily realized the full, horrifying truth. These men were not just here to threaten. They had come to finish what they started, and they would not leave any witnesses behind. The door handle rattled violently. Emily pressed her back harder against the wall, her heart hammering in her chest. The chair blocking the door scraped across the floor as the men outside pushed with more force. A deep voice growled, "Open this damn door or we'll break it down." Emily's hands were shaking as she whispered into her phone, "This is Nurse Emily Carter on the third floor. Room 312. 2 men are trying to break in. They want to hurt the patient. Please send help right now. There's a child involved too." The operator's voice sounded far away. "Police are on the way. Stay on the line." Sarah remained unconscious in the bed, completely unaware of the danger just inches away. Emily moved closer to her and gently held her hand, trying to stay strong. The men outside started kicking the door. Each loud thud echoed through the room. The chair legs were slowly giving way. Downstairs in the locked staff break room, Lucas heard the distant banging. He covered his ears and started crying again. "Please don't let them hurt Mommy," he whispered to himself. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he curled into a small ball on the floor. On the third floor, a nurse walking down the hallway saw the two angry men and quickly turned around to hide. Hospital security was still nowhere in sight. Emily knew she couldn't wait any longer. She looked at the drawing in her pocket, the one Lucas had risked everything to bring, and felt a surge of courage. The taller man slammed his shoulder against the door. The wood began to crack. Emily quickly turned off the main lights, leaving only the soft glow of the medical machines. She grabbed a metal tray from the side table as a weapon, ready to protect Sarah with everything she had. "Come on," she whispered under her breath. "Where are the police?" The door shook again, harder this time. One of the men shouted, "We know the kid is here somewhere. Finish this and find the boy too." Emily's blood ran cold. They were looking for Lucas as well. The danger was closing in on both the mother and her brave son, and help still felt too far away. The wooden door finally cracked loudly under the heavy kicks. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the taller man with neck tattoos pushed the broken chair aside and stepped into the dark room. His eyes scanned the space angrily until they landed on Emily standing protectively in front of Sarah's bed. "Get out of the way, nurse," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. His partner stood right behind him, breathing hard. Emily held the metal tray tightly in her hands, her arms shaking but her feet planted firmly. "You're not touching her," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "The police are already on their way. Leave now." The taller man laughed coldly. "You think you can stop us? That stupid kid has caused enough trouble already." He took a threatening step closer. "Where is the boy? We know he's here." Emily's heart pounded wildly. She could hear distant sirens approaching from outside the hospital, but they were still too far. The man reached out to push her aside. Emily swung the metal tray hard, hitting his arm with a loud clang. He cursed in pain and grabbed her wrist, twisting it until the tray fell to the floor with a crash. Sarah's monitors started beeping faster as the noise disturbed her. Emily fought to stay between the men and the unconscious woman. "Her son drew everything," she said desperately. "We know about the drugs. We know you pushed her down the stairs. It's over." The shorter man pulled out a knife, his face twisted with anger. "Then we'll make sure no one talks." Time seemed to slow down. Emily braced herself, ready to fight with everything she had to protect. Sarah, just as the taller man lunged forward again, loud footsteps echoed in the hallway. "Security, police, drop your weapons!" Voices shouted. Red and blue lights flashed through the window. The two men froze. The taller one looked toward the door, panic filling his eyes. Emily didn't move, still standing as a shield in front of Sarah's bed. Her whole body trembled with fear and adrenaline. From a small window in the break room door downstairs, Lucas had quietly slipped out and watched the terrifying scene from a distance. His small face was wet with tears, but he kept watching bravely, hoping the nurse could save his mother. The police officers rushed into the room with their guns drawn. "Hands up! Drop the knife now!" they shouted. The taller man froze, his hand still gripping Emily's wrist. For a terrifying second, no one moved. Then the shorter man cursed and dropped the knife to the floor. Both men were quickly pushed against the wall and handcuffed as more officers filled the room. Emily's legs felt weak. She stepped back from Sarah's bed, breathing hard. One officer gently guided her to a chair while another checked on the unconscious patient. "You did good," the officer told her quietly. "We got them." Emily pulled the crumpled crayon drawing from her pocket and handed it to the lead detective. "This is from her 8-year-old son. He saw everything. These men, along with the boyfriend, pushed her down the stairs. The toxicology report proves she was drugged. They came here to kill her." The detective examined the drawing carefully, his face growing serious. "This matches what we've already found. The boyfriend was arrested downstairs 5 minutes ago trying to run. We've been investigating him for insurance fraud and domestic abuse. Thanks to this boy and you, we have everything we need." Down the hall, officers unlocked the staff break room and found Lucas hiding inside. The boy ran straight into Emily's arms as soon as he saw her. He was still shaking. "Is Mommy okay?" he asked, his voice small and scared. "She's going to be fine," Emily promised, holding him close. "You saved her, Lucas. Your drawing helped us stop the monsters." A short while later, Sarah began to wake up. Her eyes opened slowly, confused and weak. When she saw Lucas sitting beside her bed holding her hand, tears rolled down her cheeks. "My baby," she whispered. "You're safe." The hospital staff worked quickly to stabilize. Sarah, Child Protective Services, arrived to make sure Lucas would be protected. The 3 men were taken away in police cars. The entire hospital was buzzing with the news of what had happened on the 3rd floor. Emily stood outside the room watching the mother and son together. Her long shift had turned into something much bigger, because one frightened little boy refused to be ignored, and one nurse chose to listen. 2 lives had been saved. 2 weeks later, the sun shone brightly through the windows of Mercy General Hospital. The rain that had soaked the city on that frightening day was long gone. Nurse Emily Carter was finishing her morning rounds when she saw a familiar face walking slowly down the hallway. Sarah Bennett moved carefully with the help of a walking stick. Beside her was Lucas, holding her hand tightly. The 8-year-old boy looked completely different now. His eyes were bright, and his face had a big, happy smile. When he saw Emily, he let go of his mother's hand and ran straight toward her. "Emily!" Lucas shouted with joy and hugged her around the waist as hard as he could. Emily laughed warmly and knelt down to hug him back. "Look at you. You're smiling so big today." Sarah walked up slowly, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "I don't even know how to thank you," she said softly. "You believed my son when no one else would. You saved both of us." Emily stood up and gently touched Sarah's arm. "It wasn't just me. Lucas is the real hero. If he hadn't sat outside in the rain with that drawing, I might never have known what was happening." Lucas reached into his small backpack and pulled out a new, colorful drawing. This one was much brighter than the last. It showed a happy family, a mommy, a little boy, and a kind nurse with dark hair standing under a big yellow sun. At the bottom, he had written in careful letters, "Thank you for believing me. You stopped the monsters." Emily took the drawing with trembling hands. She felt tears come to her eyes as she read the words. "This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received," she whispered. But there was one final surprise. The hospital director walked over with 2 other senior doctors. "Nurse Carter," he said with a warm smile, "because of your quick thinking and courage, we've decided to create a new program in your name. It's called the Listening Ear Project. Every child who comes to this hospital will have someone trained to truly listen to them, especially when they're scared or trying to protect someone they love." Sarah smiled through her tears. "And the police told me the full story. Mike and his friends won't be getting out for a very long time." The insurance company also dropped the case. After seeing Lucas's first drawing and the medical evidence, we're finally free. Lucas looked up at Emily with shining eyes. "I was so scared that day, but you made me feel safe. Now Mommy and I are going to have a new house far away from the monsters." Emily hugged both of them tightly. In that moment, the busy hospital hallway felt peaceful. She realized that sometimes the smallest voices and the simplest drawings can expose the darkest truths and bring the greatest hope. As Sarah and Lucas walked out of the hospital into the bright Seattle sunshine, Lucas turned back one last time and waved at Emily. She waved back, still holding the new drawing close to her heart. One frightened boy crying in the rain had changed everything. His courage, combined with one nurse's decision to stop and care, had saved a family and inspired an entire hospital. What would you do if you saw a little boy crying alone in the rain? Would you stop and listen? If this emotional story touched your heart, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss new stories. Thank you.